Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha with Ice Cream Fitness here. I'm just sitting here with Bagpuss and we're going to go a little Louis Markham on you guys today. It means I'm going to discuss a political and social topic and something that I think went a little too far this week. But hold on, let me give you guys a bicep shot first. So it would seem that Dr. Phil, who I am not a fan of, because this motherfucker successfully wrote a best-selling diet book, and he clearly has never dieted a day in his life, and clearly knows nothing about exercise science or nutritional science. And so how he pulled this off is beyond me. But he got some flack this week, some major flack, and I don't think it was warranted. And what he did on his Twitter, he asked the question, is it okay to have sex with a drunk woman? And it was only up a few minutes, but apparently something like 1.2 million people saw it, and feminists went apeshit nuts. And this is the sort of stuff that pisses me off as a liberal with extreme liberalism. When we take this stuff and this political correctness to the farthest moronic extreme. And this is a case of it, because it is a legitimate social and legal question. Now, I think clearly there is a threshold of intoxication to where if anyone has sex with that person, yeah, it is absolute rape. No questions asked. If a person is unconscious or they're unable to speak coherently to be able to tell you no or push you away, and they're that far gone, and someone has sex with them, that is hands down, I don't think any reasonable person would question that is rape. But if you have someone who loses their inhibitions a bit and they do get promiscuous when they are intoxicated and they're still conscious enough and cognizant enough to speak in sentences, and they choose to leave a place and have sex with a guy, to say that that is default by rape, I think that's a big question. I think that's something that we need to look at a little more closely, because the majority of cases of that, those women the next day do not feel it was rape. In some cases they do, but the majority they do not. And I'm sorry, but I've had female friends who did suffer real, legitimate rape, who went through real rapes. Not something to where you had someone had a little too much to drink and then maybe made a bad choice. No, I mean people who were forced to have sex against their will, and to hold the two in the same light, no. And it also begs the question of accepting personal responsibility. And this is something I do like to cover on my channel. Whatever drugs you choose to put in your body, because I've covered the topic of alcohol, I've covered the topic of weed, and I cover the topic of anabolic steroids and everything else in detail here. And this goes back to the alcohol of, you need to assess the consequences of putting a drug into your body and your personal behavior before you do it. And that's part of being an adult. And if you know that a drug is going to make you act a certain way, you should probably not use it. For example, with alcohol, if you know that alcohol makes you aggressive, you're responsible if you hit somebody in a fist fight. If you know that you like to try to get behind the wheel of your car when you get drunk, then yeah, you're responsible if you run someone over. If you know that alcohol makes you promiscuous and makes you have sex with people who you might not otherwise have sex with, then you should probably reconsider drinking. It's about having accountability for what you choose to put into your body, whether it's a food, whether it's a drug, or anything else. You need to own up to that accountability. And to say that this isn't something that we should re-look at, or at least re-examine and consider the full legal ramifications of it, and for people to get upset at questioning that, I think is fucking offensive. And if someone thinks that I'm a bad person or I'm wrong for saying, well, hey, maybe we should take another look at this, and maybe this is something that needs to be assessed on an individual case-by-case basis. And if people don't like that I said that and said, hey, this should be looked at on a case-by-case basis, then unlike Dr. Phil, I will tell you to go fuck yourself. Because I don't pull punches. I don't play around like that. Now, let's get Bagpuss's take on it. Bagpuss says he doesn't know why you guys are messing around with drunk girls anyway, that if you were as aesthetic and as suave and had as much swag as he does, and look at those lines, look at those striations, that if you looked as good as he does, that you would have sober women lining up for a mile. So maybe some of you guys need to take a line from Bagpuss. Alright guys, but all joking aside, I think in a case like this of him actually just asking that question is just going too far. And I do think people need to reassess things and start taking, in general, accountability for what they put into their body, because this is one of the biggest problems we have with obesity and with drug abuse and everything else, is the fact that people are not willing to take accountability for what happens when they put something into their body. And to me, this is potentially another case of it. And I'm not saying that someone deserves to be raped, because they don't. If they're unwilling or they're unconscious and someone is forcing them and using the fact that they're drunk to force them, then I'm not saying they deserve that, because they clearly don't. But if it's a case of they know that they lose their inhibitions and they will sleep with strange people when they get drunk, then we need to reassess if that's actually rape or not. Or if it's them just not willing to be an adult and take responsibility for their actions and accountability for what they choose to put in their body. Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you next time.